everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I'm Phil Bakke, and I am joined tonight by Mika Burrell. Mika, how's it going?
It's going well. Good to be back.
I was going to say, you were recently on your travels. How was sunny Spain?
It was fabulous. I had a really good time. Got to see Real Betis host Osasuna in La Liga play. It was a 1-1 draw. It was a lot of fun. Highly recommend. Great country, great people, great food. Got to practice my Spanish a lot. But yeah, no, it was a great time. Thanks for asking.
I saw a video from a horrible, I don't know how I got served this, probably just to enrage me. A video of this dude who is on vacation in Spain, who works in marketing in the US, and was like, the mindset here is totally different, and people prioritize like spending time with each other, and which like I get, but also like it seems like nobody's really just like doesn't have the same mentality that we have of like getting after it or whatever. I was like, dude, you work in fucking marketing.
Dude, yeah, you have a fake email job. Relax.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if they like grind. I think it's just like an American mentality that we just like get after it harder and have like more purpose and stuff. I was like, no, their purpose is like actually wanting to continue living.
Yeah, it was funny. The siesta, of course, people have heard of the famous siesta, and I don't think like people are literally napping. I think it's more like people like business is closed for like 4 hours in the middle of the day. And so siesta was starting one day when we were in Madrid, and this lady comes out of an office, like dressed business casual, siesta starting, and she just pulls out this fat joint from her pocket and starts rolling it as she's walking down the street. And I'm like, you know what? You're not on company time. Go ahead. Yeah. Enjoy your siesta. So
that's hysterical.
Yeah. So it is a different vibe completely. They eat dinner like super late, and I finally realized why, because the sun doesn't go down until like 10. So makes sense. And they're working until like 8 because they have that break in the middle of the day. So yeah, it is completely different, but it was a lot of fun. Highly recommend.
Yeah. And we're joined as well by Christian Canales. Christian, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I have not traveled anywhere, so I have no tails. It's a hard act to follow.
Well, your break's about to start, so.
Yeah, I'm going to California, but that's about it.
There you go.
Hey, we take those. Well, also, I guess by way of getting started, obviously, we are going to be talking a lot today about El Paso Locomotive and the USL Jagermeister Cup defeat at home to Colorado Springs Switchbacks, and then looking ahead to a game coming up this weekend against Oakland Roots. And if you're finding the podcast for the first time, we're on all the big podcast platforms, whatever you prefer to listen to us on. So find us there, and check us out around the Locomotive season. It's been a pretty good one so far, but obviously defeat last time to Colorado Springs Switchbacks in the Jagermeister Cup. Christian, I'll start with you, but it seems like it's safe to say that with the US Open Cup run on top of what has been a very good start to the USL Championship campaign, seems like Jagermeister's getting a little bit deprioritized by Wilmer and company, just in terms of giving some starts to some of the fringe guys and also getting some of the young players in there.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't have a problem with it. We, like you said, we did some work in the Open Cup, and the league is going pretty well for us. And I guess just because of the format of the Jagermeister Cup, this isn't necessarily like an elimination game, either like a do or die. So I had no problems with the rotation, and I think it's good. This is a team that I think we've seen Wilmer doesn't like to make a lot of changes with. Even during matches, it seems like he's really hesitant to make those subs. So you got to kind of just take whatever opportunities you can get to get them these, back 8 or 9 guys some good game minutes, and so I think it was okay as far as the rotation itself.
Talking a little bit about the selection, Mika, I mean, it is a very changed lineup, and there's sort of, I guess, two ways you can think about this in terms of saying, hey, it's a very changed lineup. Lot of guys who don't typically start games or haven't been starting games, maybe we should say. A couple of youngsters in there as well. So you would expect that lineup to be a little bit rusty, not look as fluid as our typical starting 11. They don't play games together, that sort of stuff. And there's probably like the more cynical way of looking at it of, hey, some of these guys like didn't look quite up to it. And whenever we make these changes, the team looks there is this sort of drop off from the typical 11, especially in production, like offensively. So I guess of these two, like, where do you land on that spectrum of, hey, it's new lineup, it's going to be kind of clunky versus, do we have concerns about depth in this squad?
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I mean, someone can correct me on this, but I think this 11 itself, I don't think this exact 11 has ever played with each other before. So, yeah. I mean, Wilmer Cabrera certainly did go full tilt with the rotation, and to Christian's point, it is kind of it's a cup competition, but I mean, there's a table, right? So it's not like a complete like knockout thing necessarily. So I'm not too bothered by it either. As for your question to, is there concerns with quality? It's interesting because I think that there was actually a lot of like decent moves in this game that we just were not able to replicate consistently throughout. Because I think some of our best play was in like the first 25 minutes, and then it was kind of just a non-event for much of the second half, to be fair. So there were some good moves from some players that we don't always see all the time. That being said, on the flip side of that, I do think where the game was perhaps won and lost was in midfield, and I think midfield is where the lack of fluency showed. I mean, Kofi Tumasi comes into the side as kind of that deep lying playmaker. I thought he was pretty good picking the ball up off the defenders. But then that combination with Coronado, who's kind of like that shuttling kind of midfielder, and then Emiliano Rodriguez, a very young player who, to be fair, like I don't recall anything that he did, good or bad. Just kind of a non-game for him, if you will. So I think midfield showed really where the lack of fluency was, because we've seen Alfaro and Romero play. Memo Diaz is a known quantity. Vasquez makes his debut at the left back position, and I thought actually it was such a young players kind of game, like a lot of really promising, brave play from him, but also got taught a lesson on the Huerman goal. Mm-hmm. So unlucky for him, but overall a decent performance. And then the forwards. I mean, you said, do we have a concern about depth? And I think these forwards, Carter, Mochaban, Lopez, like, in our strongest 11, those are really good options off the bench. But with the way that they started this game and kind of the lack of any real chemistry between them, I think it showed. But I think individually these are really good players, and they had their chances. I know Daniel Carter came on against New Mexico United, helped us get a point there. I think he had an assist. Frank Lopez, we know what he's done in this league before. We know what he's done for Wilmer Cabrera before at RGV. And then, of course, we've banged the Tumi Moshabani drum on this podcast a lot, and we rate him, but it's just not coming off for him. So all of that to say that, yes, all of these players thrown together, it didn't look great. There were moments, but I don't know how much really we can expect from all of this rotation. And ultimately, we lose at home, and that's unfortunate, but just kind of have to put this one behind you and kind of compartmentalize the different competitions, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of, in this one, the rotation and maybe the way I'm thinking, particularly about your chemistry you thought with the forwards. It does feel like Daniel Carter, Frank Lopez, and Tumi Moshabane all probably would prefer like not playing in a 3 with each other, if that makes sense. Like Daniel Carter definitely feels like a more traditional, he's played as like a hold up 9 when he's come on, sort of a target man, like that sort of vibe as a 9. Frank
Very
Lopez
physical. Yeah.
Frank Lopez definitely wants to be playing down the center. Like he doesn't, he drops into the pockets maybe, but he definitely doesn't want to be outside the width of the goal mouth. And then, for Toomey, the best that he's played this season for us certainly is as a false 9, like linking play and kind of drifting between maybe, the 9 and 10 sort of areas of the field. So I definitely, I would agree with you in that, not only is it rotation into an unfamiliar 3, and like everybody is not necessarily playing where they want to, aside from maybe Frank Lopez, who is probably a bit unfortunate not to get something. He had maybe the best chance of the game for Locomotive early in the second half. But talking about the action in the match itself, this is a very strong 11 from Colorado Springs, who seem to be kind of putting a lot of their eggs into the Jagermeister basket, given the fact that they are performing, they are just down the league table right now. And they're trying to get some confidence in. So they start a pretty strong lineup, but Locomotive's start was pretty good. And there were some early chances for the likes of Tumi Moshibane, and then Chapo Vasquez, I guess, kind of within the first 20-ish minutes or 25 minutes for Locomotive. But crucially, and maybe what defined this game is that despite the fact that Locomotive had sort of these flashes of brilliance, they generate just the one shot on target for the whole game. So a little bit of just like wastefulness, I guess, for lack of a better term. And Christian, I mean, like Mika maybe was talking about a little bit earlier, like some flashes in there, but no one was there to be clinical in the way that, I mean, I guess, recently it's primarily been Andy Carreras doing with the clinical finishes, but the typical players not being in the lineup, and they aren't able to generate as much genuine threat, I guess, this team, despite some promising moves early on.
Yeah, and that's just a sign of, I guess, like the inexperience, really. I mean, you really only just got like raw talent out there and not much else. And so that can be, hit or miss. Sometimes that's enough to, if it's a good day, that's enough to get the result your way. But if not, then, it takes a lot more quality. I don't know. Quality might be kind of harsh, but just a lot more, I don't know, time, I guess, just being able to work with each other and put all those things together to tie it all up, and I think that was the difference between El Paso and Colorado that night. This is essentially Colorado's first team out there, if not completely their first team.
Yeah.
So, and that's really all it comes down to. It was a close match. They didn't play us off the pitch. And so I guess in that sense, there's a little bit of positivity, this basically B squad for us, hung in there for all except, a 45-second, 1 minute phase of the match. Cause everything else is about equal this match. We both had the ball about the same amount of time, got the exact same amount of shots on target. So it was pretty evenly matched. So I think, like I said, it just comes down to players with a little bit more experience.
And I think too, like thinking as you were talking there, I was just like, it was making me think about sort of the confidence aspect of this as well, where
that's the word I was looking for. I kept saying quality, but confidence is a better.
No, and that's so I mean, that was definitely on display, where I think the Toomey chance certainly like sticks out to me, where He's dribbling down the right-hand side. He opts to go for this sort of like more casual rolled finish, like trying to curl it inside the far post when, confident to me, like maybe chooses a different option, goes near post, like tries to catch her out a little bit. And maybe tries a little something different. And I think you could see that on a couple of these things where maybe players are snatching at the chance a little bit instead of taking it more confidently. And Mika, this is sort of the chicken and the egg of like, a confident forward needs to be scoring goals to gain confidence, to score goals to gain confidence, to score goals. And it's like this, where does that cycle start for a guy like Toomey or Daniel Carter when they're getting such like precious little time?
Yeah, I mean that is the I think age-old debate of forwards and form is like, do you play them into form or do they need to sit out and like gather themselves, right? I think, to be fair, in the league, the team is kind of selecting itself at the moment, and there is no room for
sure.
these players, at least to start. And I think Wilmer Cabrera has been pretty unequivocal in why, to me, more often than not finds himself on the bench is because he's just not taking those chances. And I think a more confident Toomey Moshaban puts his foot through that. Maybe tries to go near post, something that maybe the goalkeeper's not expecting, and then he just it's a fast break, and then to end it with that really like tame, like sort of finessed effort that Herrera, who's I do not rate, don't think he's a great keeper. Like if you test him a little bit, we could have got something, right? It doesn't test him at all. He's able to gather it. It's just catching practice. So yeah, it's I don't envy Wilmer, let's say, for having to like give these players these kinds of opportunities, because it's not the way that it's not the stage that they want to be playing on, right? I think they'd rather be playing in USL Championship and showing what they can do in the league. But and especially for like a player like Daniel Carter who's on loan, like it's really important for players like that to really show what they can do, because there's a club that has their rights, that's trying to see like, do we want you back, kind of thing. So yeah, it's tough, and it's funny because I think at the beginning of the season, I think we thought that Lopez in particular would be more of a factor in this team, just because he was Miami's arguably best player in a really poor Miami side, and we were thinking like, okay, if he could be talismanic there, then surely he's gonna lead this team, and it just hasn't really come off for him. So it's been a strange old season for the likes of Toomey and Frank. I think in Daniel Carter's defense, I think any time that he has been given some time, he's showed stuff, to be fair. And I do think if there's anyone in the three that could possibly play themselves into Wilmer's thoughts as far as starting in the league, it might be him, just because that physicality is just it's a different profile from an Andy Cabrera, a Amando Moreno. We're kind of rolling with like three Smurfs up there right now. Kind of like Napoli style, Mertens, Callejon kind of thing, Insigne kind of thing.
Short kings only.
Short kings only. So Daniel Carter certainly like gives you something different there, right? And he can be very combative. We've seen the ugly part of that too, where he kind of loses his rag. But yeah, it's just been a tough season for some of these guys. And then throw in the kids. I mean, I know you didn't ask about that, but like, to have two like teenagers, I think Emiliano's in his early 20s, but a 19-year-old making his debut at left back, and they were certainly trying to spam the ball to him, and ultimately the goal comes from that side. It was a little bit brutal for him. So
yeah, and I think all in all, like they gave good accounts of themselves, but certainly the goal itself coming down his side was maybe harsh given the overall vibe of his performance being quite good.
On the topic of like the kids, I need a welfare check on Kenneth Hoban. because
It's finals week. He's got to.
between him and I can't think of that other kid's name anymore. The one who we got from, I think he was in the Houston Dynamo system. Brian brought him in.
Oh, Lalito.
Yeah, like we have shown we're starting to show like a pattern of being like, oh, we've got this like wonderkind, and then like nothing ever happens to them. I know it's early in the season, but like you sign Hope, he's in the system, like the youth system.
Mm-hmm.
You sign him to a professional contract. So what is the point of that if you're not going to play him, if you're not even going to put him on the bench?
I was going to say, I think that's like the weird thing for me is it feels like he's not been in the squad. Like, I don't think he's been in the squad at all.
Yeah. Like hype him up all you want, hype him up on the, the U16 or whatever part of the system he's in. But like, what's the point of this professional contract if he's not out there?
Transfer Marks seems to suggest that he's not with the club, but I don't know.
Was it one of those?
It is weird, to be fair.
That's wait. So they say Kenneth Hoban is like without club, or
no? Kenneth Hoban is on the roster. I'm sorry.
Lalito. Yeah.
Lalito.
For some reason, I feel like Lalito did leave.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The fact that we're like not confident, I think, just goes to Christian's point of like some of these children
What's
just
happening?
Like fall by the wayside, and it's really quite strange.
What's happening?
No, this is becoming problematic. The children are disappearing.
Oh god.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and I did just double check myself that Kenneth Hoban has not been named in a squad yet this season. So the whole thing just feels a little bit questionable, particularly when they took him to City Hall to like do his contract signing or whatever it was, like, or the day after he signed his contract.
Right.
So I mean, I get, they were trying to make a point maybe of like, oh, the youngest guy going pro and making a whole thing about the academy. But if you're not confident that the guy can, like, he's a kid, like, let him live. Right. Like, you don't need to put any weight of expectation on him unnecessarily.
Right.
So we talked about those couple of early chances, but it is Colorado Springs who opened the scoring, and it is Quenzi Huerman, which I've heard that name pronounced a zillion different ways, just to be clear. So I'm probably getting it wrong, but it comes from this like sustained press from Colorado Springs, where off of a throw from us. I think it's just like a. I don't want to like say there's this weird like chested sort of touch from one of our center backs. I don't know if it was Alfaro or Romero. But we give the ball away sort of like right outside of our box, and they're able to recycle possession and get Huerman isolated out on the right-hand side against Vasquez. And he cuts in and sort of talking about the confidence, this is one where there was no shortage of confidence from Colorado Springs in that they were absolutely leathering it from outside the box, like at every opportunity. And unfortunately, Huerman kind of gives Sebastian more and more of the eyes. And I think it looks like he's kind of shaping to go to the far corner, and he just like puts his laces through it and puts it. I don't know if it's right in the corner, but basically brings it to the near post and smashes it past more and more for the 1-0 lead. A good goal, and one of those where I think my exact sort of response in the group chat was, or like reaction in the group chat was just like, I'm annoyed, because it just felt like highly preventable in several ways.
Yeah, I mean, before I kind of go through the myriad mistakes that happen here that lead to the goal, to be fair, I think that this kind of goal it happens in games like these that aren't very good. Like, you need just like a bit of like individual brilliance to break a game open, and it did feel like that was going to be the case. for this game. So fair play to Quenzi Huerman. He's a French player who I guess has really cut his teeth at the NCAA level, and then Colorado Springs picked him up, and now he's obviously playing professionally. But it's a hell of a strike. But like you said, it starts with this kind of, well, it doesn't start with it, but I think it this is where like everything falls apart for Locomotive when MLS champion Tony Alfaro chests the ball down right in front of his own penalty area. Brian Romero, the younger of the two center backs, throws his arms up like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I think he expected one of Coronado or Tomasi to like gather that, but it's just like a stupid thing to do as a defender. You're under pressure. Why? Like, chesting it. Why? It's rarely ever a good idea for a defender to chest a ball ever. Like, why? Why? Like, chesting the ball is for like wingers collecting the ball from a switch of play. Like, that's not something a center back should necessarily be doing with any type of frequency. So that's just stupid to me. I'm sorry. Like, I hate that. Hate everything about it. And then obviously Colorado are able to keep possession, and then eventually the ball finds its way to the Frenchman, and I don't want to go too hard on Vasquez. It was his debut. He's 19 years old. And I don't necessarily think like the defending is like shocking or anything, but he does kind of just let Huerman cut in, right? He doesn't get close enough to him. I think maybe the smart play there would have been to foul him, and then you're giving a free kick away in a decent area for them, but it's better than letting him unleash that shot, surely. So Vasquez could do better there. I think it's a learning opportunity for him, but the team defending was just a letdown in this sequence and allowing Colorado to keep the ball and keep the pressure on. And half an hour and that's the one and only goal, and that's all they needed.
Yeah. To be fair too, I think, and we've obviously been very complimentary of Kofi Tumasi because he's been very good in a number of different roles, like since he came to the club. And I would say in Vasquez's defense is that he's like he's guiding him inside because he's expecting help, and Tumasi does not step out towards. Also, I think it's Alfaro on that side as well who does it. Like, there's just none of the help ultimately arrives. I think Coronado's in the area, like maybe not on that side necessarily, but there's a handful of people who I think Vasquez at some point is expecting, okay, well, surely like someone else is going to come in and like maybe make a challenge on the ball or close down or whatever. And it just doesn't happen. But once he gets that just half yard of space, I mean, credit to Huerman because it is quite the strike. But Christian, I guess the one thing that you could probably say about this Locomotive side is, and obviously maybe this is part of the change in personnel as well, but this isn't the sort of goal that they've conceded a lot this season. Like, most of the goals that this team has conceded have been like, we're out of shape, we're like not prepared, we get caught in possession, we're running towards our own goal. And in this case, like it is just a case of a player getting a half yard of space against our defense, which was, I mean, ostensibly prepared and just didn't react really well to the danger.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons for that is that we weren't playing up at the time. I think that's usually when we concede most of our goals. And, we're playing up, and so I think we get a little bit lackadaisical. So I think that's, if I had to guess, that's probably why we still had our heads in the game and just got beat by a good goal, like you said.
The second half, there's not a whole lot to write home about, but I guess we would probably be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that, and this did not make it in the highlights package by USL, but for anyone watching the match, you will remember the villain arc of Marco Micheletto, who somehow avoids a red card in this game, despite the fact that he probably could have had like 3 or 4 yellows. And I'm not really sure exactly how he avoided sanction, because there were a couple of times, I think, if I'm remembering right, there was one where he sort of broke up he maybe made it like a tactical foul and broke up a counter, and that was sort of the first one where we're kind of like, that's not yellow, because it was quite cynical, like not really a play on the ball, that sort of stuff. Then he gets the booking, I think, on the next challenge. Or because he was booked, right? I'm not crazy.
He was, yeah,
okay.
Eventually.
Yeah. And then there was even a time where he like committed a foul and then actually dribbled the ball away from there. And I'm thinking, like, okay, is he about to get sent off for like time wasting, all this sort of stuff? But no, there was no like sanctioning or talking to. And in terms of, I think we've been a little bit lucky to not have to talk about the referees that much this season. Unfortunately, like this sequence and really just a single player being so free to disrupt Locomotive's game, which was like obviously what Micheletto was out there to do in many cases, was to like, hey, as soon as Locomotive get possession, just kick like the dude with the ball. He was allowed to do that for far too long in this game without sanctioning.
Yeah, I mean, he commits the most fouls in the game by anyone who played, 5 fouls. Quenzi Huerman actually with the next most with 4, and I believe he was also booked. So I think this is what we said on opening, or maybe what I said on opening night, of like, I was shocked to see the defending champions playing this style that is so agricultural, if you will. And so, yeah, I mean, Micheletto, great player, really puts himself about, does a lot of the hard yards, in defense. He will put in a shift, which is why I was kind of surprised that New Mexico United parted ways with him. But yeah, he's a bit of a bastard. 3 yellow cards already on the season, and should be a lot more than that, because he was allowed to get away with quite a bit on Saturday night. And it's, I mean, one wonders what we might have been able to do in transition if we had that space against 10 men. But yeah, I guess the referee just didn't see fit to punish more, more consistently. And it's funny because he's actually not been great otherwise this season for Colorado Springs. But this FOTMOB gives him like an 8.1 in this game, but he's had like massive shockers before that. So he's been blowing hot and cold, and I think that he'll try to, I don't know, like crack on from this, because he was allowed to get away with so much. So why wouldn't he keep playing this kind of style? But yeah. And he had some long range efforts too. So I mean, he was also warning us with some of his strikes that couple feet down, and it could have been worse for us. But yeah, very annoying refereeing on the night, to be fair. I don't know that it would have changed the result or anything, but it's still annoying to watch.
One thing that I didn't actually notice until I just saw it, but Christian, I mean, one thing that jumped out to me about the refereeing specifically, and I guess like now that I think about it, I felt it during the match without it jumping out to me. 43 fouls whistled by the referee in this game, which is, when you just go by on a per minute basis, we're literally talking about a foul every 2 minutes in this game. 20 whistled against Locomotive, 23 against Switchbacks, which you could say like, oh, it's fair, but it also was very like, it made the game sort of have this feel of, hey, this is not very good. Like whatever it is that we're watching, like it never got a rhythm, this game. And I guess that might be why.
Yeah. And they made a few comments to the commentary team about how this referee was also a bit of an asshole too, because he was also refusing to let them play quick after the fouls. And so like 100% playing into Colorado's game plan.
Yeah.
They got exactly what they wanted. This game was best case scenario. for Colorado. So that it wasn't just the fouls; it was the fact that the restarts were taking so long afterwards that made this kind of drag.
Like any tempo was just like immediately sucked out of the game. And I will add that I'm assuming you're paraphrasing Duke and Heidi with the assholes comment towards the referee. That would be amazing if we got.
Of course.
Duke just mask off on ESPN Plus. No, that, and it is like, I mean, it has such an impact, like the referee on the tempo of the game. And I think in this case, you can make a pretty clear connection between the fact that, hey, he's whistling for a foul every 2 minutes, and it feels like this game is not building any rhythm. So, the tough thing for Locomotive is, despite the fact that they generate like a decent amount of shots in the second half, they're not even worthy of making the highlights package, aside from one, which is, I believe it was Memo Diaz plays a long ball over the top. There's a missed header from a Colorado Springs player, and it bounces right into the path of Frank Lopez, who he allows the ball to bounce a couple of times, tries to let it take some of the pace naturally off of it. And as Herrera charges down, Lopez tries to chip him. And in the end, Herrera's height, I think, sort of saves him in that he stays tall, and Lopez just misjudges the flick over him, and it was over the bar as well. Otherwise, we're talking about a 1-1 game in the 52nd minute. Unfortunately, was not to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think you summed it up right there. It just wasn't ultimately good enough on the night. And one thing that is also a shame too is that I think we have actually quite a decent like backup goalkeeper in Sebastian Moramora. And so in a way, it's a credit to him to get beat by this like really high quality goal. But the fact that we couldn't support him with anything in the other end of the pitch is just disappointing. And then we make all these changes and none of those boys are able to get into the game either, so I kind of don't even know what the point of that was. I think we give Wilmer some stick sometimes for late subs, but in this one it's like, if you were gonna go so heavily rotated, like kind of just do that, you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, I think it makes sense. I mean, because
the idea is like you're trying to rest these guys, right? So like,
right,
might as well like go full tilt and rest them. And I don't know.
There's like a secondary argument here too about, and this is maybe the most potentially cynical like argument about this, is that one, like, we had this Open Cup run, we're doing well in the league. The Jagermeister, like the only guaranteed advancement out of the Jagermeister group is first place, like out of the group. And we only got 2 points or whatever from the first win because it was on penalties or whatever. So we got like reduced points out of that. We're probably already not like necessarily in the running for that first place, but I'm not saying nothing could happen or whatever, but I think now with a loss, you could probably just bin it off completely, right? Like you could just say like, we're not advancing, and honestly, who cares? Like for this year, it's one of those things where it's like, it's an awesome competition that it's going to keep a lot of clubs like invested a lot longer than they would be otherwise. And it just like doesn't feel like our competition this year. So to that point, you kind of are questioning, like we're saying to Wilmer, make the changes. But in this case, it would have actually been fine not to, because it's like, if we're going to lose 1-0, like I'd rather not put any minutes into Amando and Andy and these other players were
right.
Yeah.
Right. You've said that a lot more elegantly than I could. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I mean, So yeah, I think it is a bit weird. I don't, I'm never in favor of just like totally mailing it in these competitions, and I think it will be valuable to continue to get minutes for the fringe guys and hopefully get some confidence and all that sort of stuff. And I'm kind of unbothered at this point about about whether or not we advance in the Jagermeister. Like I won't begrudge them if we don't, because as long as we're cooking in the league, then I'm good. But
yeah,
well, it does end 1-0. Locomotive slumping to defeat at home for the first time this season in all competitions. Crucially, haven't done it in the league yet, I think. Right? Is that still accurate? At home, yeah. At home, yeah. So that being said, next up is a league match against Oakland Roots. And, well, suffice it to say, despite the fact that El Paso will be on the road, Oakland struggling, to say the least, to start the year. 3 wins from 11 and 7 losses, I think. So just a 10 points to start the year. They are second to last in the West, just above Lexington. And not a lot going right. So they decided to sack Gavin Glinton and his staff, and they just announced the signing of Benny Feilhaber, former United States men's national team player. So new manager bounce for a bad team. El Paso, I think Locomotive has seen this movie before, unfortunately.
I'm so sick of it. Like, can we stop? I think people look at the schedule and say, when are we playing Locomotive? Sack him then. Someone would have to pull the stats up on like new manager bounce, but it just feels like it happens to us a lot. And
Legion got it last. I think,
okay,
if I'm not mistaken, they sacked Tommy Sohn like right
and
before,
and then they beat us. Yeah. Love that.
So it's happened at least twice. It will have happened at least twice this season that the team's gotten a new manager bounce against us. Like in their first game with the new manager.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a strange one, Benny Feilhaber. I mean, wasn't he just playing with Des Moines Menace this season?
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. This pisses me off because it's like, pick a lane.
Fair.
He's gonna be like coaching Oakland and then be like, hey, I've got a League 2 game. I know he's not actually playing for the League 2 team, but moonlighting as an amateur player.
Yeah, I mean, Feilhaber obviously, tons of caps for the United States, played all over the world, Germany, England, of course, MLS, had a very storied career with, I think, was it Sporting Kansas City, where he made tons of appearances. So yeah, I mean, I have no clue what to think of his managerial prospects, because I think he's only ever been involved in like the Sporting kind of youth system or academy. So I think this is his first like big job as the guy. And Oakland Roots needs some milk. So
yep.
Hopefully he will be able to provide something for them after this game, not against us, please. But yeah, Oakland Roots, I mean, they just, I like to cynically joke that like they are a t-shirt company until proven otherwise. And I mean, they just, for all their hype and all the good things that they do, they have just not been able to consistently put it together on the field. And so now they're looking to Mr. Feilhaber. It'll be fascinating to say the least.
The interesting thing about this Roots team is that probably the 2 biggest pieces of business that got talked about this summer in regards to them were the signings of Jürgen Damm and Panos Armanakis. Like, Panos, obviously a guy that is a known quantity in the league, but probably reputationally a bit of a controversial character, I guess, in terms of maybe how much of a team player he is, and the way he's bounced around is maybe indicative of that. Jürgen Damm, obviously the biggest name, probably one of the biggest names that's come to USL Championship, particularly with the connection to League MX and all of that. That being said, neither have really gotten firing. Jürgen Damm has a goal and an assist in 8 games played. He's only started 4 times for Oakland, and Armanakis just a goal and an assist across 10 matches played. He started 7 times. So Gavin Glinton clearly was searching for something. And given the amount of starts kind of varying wildly across players that you'd maybe expect to be in the team consistently and all of that, there was never a point where he was really finding the formula with this team, and the big names like Jürgen Damm and Panos Armanakis not really producing for him either.
Yeah, I mean, it's been lackluster to say the least. Am I correct that Panos Armanakis kind of like fell out with people was that him at Phoenix?
Yeah.
Was he the one that was like kind of unceremoniously shipped off?
Mm-hmm. Because where'd he land?
I think right in Oakland. I think it was just last year that he was at Phoenix. No.
Wait, now I'm tripping. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
No, he went to Memphis.
Memphis, that's right.
Yeah.
It's because they don't exist that RIP Memphis. I genuinely forgot about Memphis. And then so he goes to Memphis. Because obviously he comes up with Loudon. That was like his big sort of entry to the USL. After he had bounced around Europe for a little bit. So right. Loudon kind of bursts on the scene, big Phoenix signing, sort of a marquee thing. Like, hey, we're bringing in like one of the best players in the league. Has this falling out, goes to Memphis, and then ends up at Oakland after the disillusion. But
yeah, so I mean,
it's strange.
I just bring that up to say that like for his star power, like there's also that where it's like, if you're not producing, then it just makes it easier for people to bring those things up and be like, well, is that worth, was that worth the risk, I suppose? Jürgen Damm, I mean, all I know of this man is that he's got bags of pace, but that was never enough to stick around long term in Liga MX. It wasn't enough for Atlanta United. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of just like a name. It's kind of giving Gideon Zalalem at New Mexico United like a name, but not really doing much, to be fair. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's impressive that Oakland Roots can pull these kind of players. And, to be fair, they might still put it together. It's only early June, but so far it's not looked really good. And I don't know. The one thing going for them specifically against us is that they tend to beat us, to be fair. So I don't know why they're kind of a bogey team for us. And there's some scar tissue there, obviously, with the playoff and all that. But I don't know. I'm hoping Memo Diaz will, be part of the kind of tactical discussions this week in the lead up. Give us some insight.
Yeah, he's in a unique position in that he's been on both sides of this match now in 2 different stints. Like he started on one, went to the other, went back. The Jürgen Damm conversation, like from someone who is like more plugged in, like, and pays a lot of attention to League MX and in particular the Mexican national team. What's Jürgen Damm's like deal? Because to me, I feel like it wasn't that long ago that he was like one of the most exciting talents coming up in like with Mexico, and then in a flash he's like career over. And not career over, obviously he's in the USL, but I just mean like from a guy that it was talked about, like this guy could be playing at like the, some of the top teams in Europe and all that sort of discussion, to now, like, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, so when he really broke out with Tigres, he was just part of some really good teams. This is my opinion, obviously, but I think he just happened to be a part of some really solid teams. And so I think that kind of helps overshadow a lot of the fact that, he's not the guy. He's got to have that supporting cast around him. And then I think he had a lot of injury issues too, that kind of led to his exit in Mexico. And so it was a big deal to get him to Atlanta. And then even there, I think the injury issues continued, because I think he only played like 30 matches over 2 seasons. So I think that was the problem for him there. And then it just never, by that point, he's getting into his 30s. And so I think that kind of, the sun had kind of set on his prime there. And he never really had anything to show for it. So I think that he's kind of just one of those players of, you'll just never really know how good he may have been, because he never really had to prove himself outside of those really talented Tigres teams in the mid-teens.
I know if I was like playing with Gignac and then suddenly wasn't, I would fall off a cliff as well. Guy was just crazy in those Tigres teams. Well, the recent form for Oakland is, same as the rest of the season. Their last league in the match, they got beat 3-0 by New Mexico United, which, if you watch a game back, like, I don't know, I think New Mexico United are still, like, I'm such a hater, but I think New Mexico United are, some of these games are flattering to deceive. Like, I'm
That's
just
your
saying.
Evergreen opinion on New Mexico United.
We're like, they've been getting away with it for 2 years. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, for
They've
2
been
years,
getting away with it since 2019.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Just fraudulent behavior since their inception. I don't know what it is, but yeah. And then Oakland had a bit of a shake up in the lineup. They went into a Jagermeister Cup game against AV Alta, and in dramatic fashion drew 2-2 and then lost on penalties. A 95th minute equalizer from AV Alta sent it to pens, and then they lost on pens. Which
is crazy, because AV Alta had dominated the ball.
Yeah.
So it's not even, I mean, it is a smash and grab, but also not.
Yeah. It's
deserve that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think this is exactly the sort of thing that, this is the magic of the Jagermeister. And why this cup is ultimately fun, because nothing like a 95th minute equalizer to really set things off. And that being said, it just feels like Oakland can't catch a break. They can't catch a break to save their life, even in a game that probably was looked at as a bit of a free hit and let's go build some confidence, boys, and all that sort of stuff. It just they started Armanakis, they start Jürgen Damm. It's a quite strong lineup from Oakland, and I think they fully went into this thinking let's just let's get 3 points, let's take away maybe a comfortable kind of get our mojo back. And even then they get undone by AV Alta. AV Alta outplayed them, and I think it doesn't ultimately lead to Gavin Glinton sacking, although the decision may have already been made if Feilhaber conversations were going on. But that being said, in terms of like danger men, we talked about obviously the high profile names, but the guy who is maybe the most or the two guys who are the most dangerous in terms of actual goal contributions are Wolfgang Prentice, American forward, and then Peter Wilson from Liberia, he's got 3 goals, 3 assists. And that's really been their production. Everybody else, it's been kind of spread out down the team, but those are the guys that if you're going to stop Oakland, that's who you got to look out for. Who do we look to amongst Locomotive? Obviously in much better form than Oakland, but who are you guys looking for big performances out of against Roots to make sure that they don't have a happy homecoming with Benny Feilhaber?
Man, that's a good one because I'm thinking back to like previous encounters, and I think if there's one player in this side that has scored against Oakland before and is still with the club, I think Noah Dolenmeyer has I think he got a goal against them one time, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know.
Moreno scored against them last year.
Did he? Okay. Well, and to be fair, Moreno finally did get past the 3-goal mark. Now he's got 4, so if he can add some more, that would be great. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just looking for anyone to try and turn the record around in this, because Oakland's head-to-head with us is 5 wins, a draw, and a loss. That's not good reading for Locomotive. And we gotta try and kick them while they're down and give Benny Feilhaber a baptism by fire into USL Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think the person that I'm really waiting to show like quantifiable contributions is Calvillo still. I would love for him to, get involved in the attack more and really just reintroduce himself this season. I mean, not that he's had a bad season, just hasn't been the kind of engine in the attack that we're used to him being. So I'd love for that to happen. I know we've talked about how it's maybe a little bit disconcerting that our goal scoring list is so top heavy with Cabrera up there, but if you look at kind of the other side of it, the distribution has been coming from all over the place, so that's positive to me. We have 19 goals in league play, or 21 goals in league play, and I think 17 of those are assisted. And I think from like 8 or 9 different players. So I think everyone else has been doing their part. Andy may just be the one who's getting the better service. So I really think that Eric is the one who I would love to show up and really have a game this weekend.
Yeah, I would. I'd echo that the midfield I think is just really important. And I'll throw Frank DeRoma in there just as the little engine that could, for sure. In terms of like the I don't know how they're going to play under Feilhaber, but Oakland Roots to me always play with a back 3 and wing backs. And so the midfield is an area where you can exploit an advantage of numbers at times and be able to play through the middle a bit. And I would like to see us just dominate that area of the pitch, make sure that Oakland aren't able to distribute as easily as they probably are hoping, and by extension create some opportunities, because we've seen what we can do when we hem teams in and really dominate midfield. It creates a lot of chances for us from those turnovers and shortens the field and all that sort of stuff. So I think in general, I would echo the sentiment, Christian, but I think, Mika, to your point, the wide players here are definitely dangerous for Oakland, and so we will need whoever is deployed in the fullback positions are going to have good games. Because as much as we can say like, oh, Dom's a pace merchant and all this stuff, it's like he is still fast, and if he beats you down the line, then we could be in trouble. So yeah, I am looking forward to kick off Saturday in Oakland. Believe it is a 9 p.m. kickoff Mountain Time for
those West Coast games are killer.
Or 8 p.m. That's right,
8
p.m.
Yeah.
8 p.m. kickoff for Mountain Time. So yeah, a little bit of a later, just an hour later start than is typical, but I think the expectation is probably 3 points despite being on the road, and hopefully Locomotive can get the job done. But any closing thoughts, you guys, for Locomotive before we sign off here?
I guess just to say that it'll be kind of cool to see Locomotive playing in the Oakland Coliseum. So that's a fun little road trip. But yeah, otherwise 3 points absolutely necessary. Got to keep the good form going in the league, and yeah, hope that we can do that.
Yeah, I just think that the win is important to keep us, at the top of that table. There's still a couple of teams, not too many anymore. I think things have evened out a little bit, but there's still some teams with games in hand behind us. New Mexico with a game in hand above us, so we just need to gather these points as quickly as we can, because I don't know when things will actually even out, but if it ends up later in the season, we don't want to regret not having taken care of business earlier while we are in we do have a healthy squad and all that. So I think those points just get harder to earn as the season goes on.
True.
Well, looking forward to it. And Locomotive Roots on Saturday night. I think we'll have to play a watch along by ear, but maybe we could get one together for the later kickoff. I guess we'll see, and we'll let y'all know. But other than that, if you enjoyed the podcast and you're finding us for the first time, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player, and we will see everybody after the Roots match. But until next time, stay loco.